Okay, hi. Welcome. It's Linda Emsley here from Love Lali, and I'm really, really thrilled to be talking with the amazing Sarah Beale tonight. She has taken time out from a happy birthday party to spend a few minutes talking to us about the book that we're working on together, The Unconventional Look at Motherhood. And I am really thrilled because she has so much to share, so much juicy stuff to share, particularly in the realms of unschooling and living life beyond the conventional. So hold on to your hats. I think this is going to be a really exciting, interesting chat. Let me just tell you a little bit more about Sarah, then we'll bring her on in. So Sarah is many things, and only one of them is a mother. She's a collector of kitsch knitwear, a sourdough addict, a bird whisperer, although her daughter doesn't believe her, a late night Netflix viewer, and a somewhat regretful border collie owner. She wanted a lurcher. Oh, well, I can commiserate on the border collie, but I love my border collie. I really wanted him. Her children have brought out not only the very best of her, but her realist self, and the self that shows up authentically, lives joyfully, walks barefoot, and sings loudly. It's in that spirit that she co-founded the partnership parenting movement and supports parents on their unschooling journey through the renegade mum, and seeks to bring a sense of connection and playfulness to other families with a touch of rebellion. I like that, the touch of rebellion. Sarah is an international best-selling author, a speaker, and an activist. And you can find her blogging about all the things rattling around in her brain, and we're going to pick out some of those things tonight. And you can find her at the radicalthinking.radicalliving.com and partnershipparent.com. And on Facebook, you can find her at Partnership Parenting Movement. So let's bring the beautiful Sarah in. Hello, hello, and welcome.
Hi.
And I'm so honoured and thrilled actually that you have been able to escape the family attention just for a little bit, because it's a big birthday day today, and join us here. So thank you so much, Sarah. Would you like to tell us a bit more about yourself and maybe about the feather in your hair? That is looking really cool.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this is all it's me out. It's opposite. You always look at your face and go, that's not what I look like. But it is. Yes, feathers in my hair. So I'm standing on my ancestral land. I don't really know where my ancestors were from on this island, because actually our history was pretty much destroyed by Roman invasion a few thousand years ago. And why is that relevant? It's relevant because I grew up in a colonized country and always felt a strong connection to Indigenous people of Australia, and felt something missing in my own life. And so here we are now in the home of my ancestors, and the disconnection and separation from culture it's like palpable. You can feel it here. So we don't even know what our tribes were called. The names of them now that we do know are actually based in Latin. And there's very little language left. There are people trying to tap back into cultural practice, but it's kind of like piecing together puzzles. So one of the things that I started to do instinctively is, just if I see feathers on the ground when I go out for a walk, I pick them up and I put them in my hair, which was initially because I had no pockets. I just needed to have somewhere to put them. But now it's become like a way of connecting to the animals that my ancestors recognized and knew. And I do talk to the birds. They always give me messages.
I love it.
Yeah, so that's why I have feathers in my hair. It's one of those ways. It's like, you go out and you touch the plants, smell the plants, get a feel for what's on the land and how our people would have used them. And it's just become a way of me being able to connect with my people and my past and my cultural practice, which is largely unknown to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can really hear what you're saying. In fact, I heard somebody the other day describe beautifully that that trauma, I guess, that was carried out in early Britain when the Romans invaded, and how as the British civilization grew and became that culture that we know today that's colonized the world. And basically he said all we did was transport all that trauma all around the world and then inflicted it on everybody else. And I just thought that's the first time I've actually heard it expressed that way and been able to find a place of compassion in my heart for all the people that have actually transgressed against the original owners of each country that's been colonized. So
we just perpetuated what was done to us, and that's no excuse, but we actually need to heal in order to stop doing it, because actually we're still doing it.
Yep, exactly.
We're still going and, you know, living in Bali and hiring house cleaners and living in mansions and feeding ourselves off of other people's culture, because we don't know how to connect to our own, and we have to stop doing it. And the only way we're going to stop doing it is if we acknowledge it and say it and forgive our ancestors for what they did and forgive ourselves for what we keep doing.
Absolutely. And it's not just the forgiveness, it's the understanding and the compassion for how that eventuated.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so it's connected to all of the systems that we live with now.
Absolutely.
That are really colonizing our minds. And we send our children into school to be trained and have their minds taken over by someone else, not them. You know, like we teach our children to hand over their wisdom and their intuition to other people, and that's colonization. And that's why my children don't go to school. That's a nice lead-in, isn't it? You didn't even have to ask.
It is. Beautiful segue into, please tell me more about unschooling.
So it's my 11-year-old's birthday today. He's my second child, Miles. And when I realized that I constantly double book myself because I haven't quite got my head around using a calendar yet. And I realized that this was Miles's birthday, and I was chatting to you, and I did for a second think, oh, should I reschedule? But then I'm like, no, it's actually really perfect, because Miles is the reason that our children first stepped out of school. Like, I think we would have got here anyway. But he was always so resistant to being colonized. He was never, ever going to be told what to do or how to do it. And in the school system, which then feeds into all of the other systems, including our parenting philosophies, that's considered to be, you know, non-compliant, oppositional, stubborn, you know, whatever, like all of the words that we use, probably some kind of disorder. He would be considered in the school system. He would probably by now be considered to be disordered in some way and pathologized. But I'm thankful for all of those things, because he really pushed us to a point of seeing the school system for what it is and for what it does to children. And he basically refused to participate in it. That's where it got to anyway. I mean, he actually wasn't non-compliant at school. He actually enjoyed learning, and very happily for a couple of years had teachers who gave him a lot of freedom and saw him for who he was and didn't try to force things on him. So he was always able to like tweak the activities to suit what he wanted to do, and they were actually really welcoming and accepting and embracing of that, actually. But then it got to a point where we encountered a teacher that was not, and actually they probably hadn't ever met a child like Miles before who didn't just crumble and comply. He just said no. And so we realized that we couldn't continue in the system. And I'm really grateful that that's where he led us.
Yeah, fantastic. You know, when I first encountered the concept of unschooling, and I have to admit it was when I became part of this group that's contributing to the book that we're both contributing to, I'd never come across the concept before. And I was listening to Carly explain free schooling and free living and the way she's operating in her world with her children. And I was just like, if I'd have known about this 10, 15 years ago, I think my children's pathway and their stories would have been quite different to what they are at the moment. And I've always had that reservation in the back of my head about, you know, because I very much come from the same point of view as yourself in relation to schooling is just it's part of the system, it's part of the brainwashing and programming to just turn our beautiful, creative, free-thinking children into drones to fit into a workplace, essentially. They're just being programmed to work. So, yes, that would have been nice, because you can see how it crushes their souls. And I really struggled with it for a very long time with, having run-ins with teacher after teacher after teacher who was it was my number 3 girl in particular who was not fitting into the school system very well. And, I was constantly up talking to teachers and talking to the principal and, trying to get them to open up their minds a little bit about how she was doing. But, anyway.
It's hard work, because if you're in that system and that's where you've agreed to be, there's a point. I mean, you advocate for your children, and I did those same things and spent so much time doing that. But then there gets to be a point where you either have to go, well, this is the system that we're in. I realize you can't bend. You can't bend it. You can't like so many people try. Many teachers, many parents go into it, and they're like, right, we're gonna be really actively involved. We're gonna make them see that there's a different way, but it is like one drop in the ocean. And I'm sorry that you had that experience, but do you know why? So Miles said to me the other night, we were in the car on a road trip that went slightly pear-shaped. And he said as we were leaving finally to kind of go to our friend's house, which was about 3 hours away at that point, he's like, I've actually had a really good day. And I was really surprised, because actually we'd just been stuck on the side of a motorway for about 2.5 hours waiting for someone to come and rescue us. And instead of arriving at our friend's house at about 9 o'clock, we got there at about 1 a.m. And so it surprised me that he said, I've had a really good day, because actually it was the sort of thing that was less than ideal, and it could have really derailed us. And I'm like, oh, and he's like, well, I think you should never, ever regret anything that's happened, because you wouldn't be the person that you are if those things hadn't happened. And so it's really, we look back and we wish we'd done things different, but it's true. Like the path that you've taken, the path that your girls have taken, are they all girls? You're 4 girls.
Yeah, I've got 4 girls.
Yeah. The path that's the path that they were meant to take.
Exactly. And it's part of the shaping and molding of who they're becoming. And of course they've had the voice of mum in their ear going, don't believe everything they tell you at school. What they tell you at school, the way your life should be, don't believe that. It doesn't have to be that way. So, there's a bit of that balance in there. But, yes, I had to be very careful with my last child, because she was very good at repeating to the teachers what I would say. That made parent-teacher interviews quite interesting.
We've all got a different path. I mean, that's really the whole point of the book, actually, isn't it?
It is. Yes,
we don't all have to do things the same. We only have to tap into our own wisdom, and that naturally means that we're all going to do things differently, and our children will lead us all into different places. And there's no right or wrong. There's only what's right for us and for our family.
And I think what's really, really powerful in the book, and in your story in particular, is it shows that there are plenty of choices out there. There's so many different options. And if one way isn't really working for you, or it doesn't feel right, just looking around, you can find, okay, well, somebody else has tried this particular approach, and look at the success they're having, and not only that, we're now so connected over the internet that it's easy to tap into expertise and experimental stuff that's happening in other countries. You can access it now, whereas 10 to 15 years ago it wasn't quite so easy, but it was there.
Yeah, that's the key. That's really what like social media and digital technology has given us, a way to connect. And what I would say to parents, I would really urge parents to actually not look to other people for community and connection, and to have people help hold space for you, for sure. But don't give away your power to other people. Don't look for gurus. Don't look for experts. Look in here. And because we actually we all know the right path when we quiet all of this other stuff. And the problem with looking to experts is that for a start, you only get this curated version of what that looks like, right? I talk a lot about what we do in our family, and And one of the reasons that I started to get more outspoken about it was because I know that other people have children like mine too, and other parents who are going, oh my goodness, what do? I don't know what to do with these children. They don't do anything that I want them to do. They won't cooperate with me. They won't agree with me. They won't go where I want to go. Like, what do I do with them? And I wanted parents to know that it's okay. But I wouldn't want anyone to look at how we live and go, oh, I want to do the exact same thing that she's doing.
No, and I'm certainly not advocating that in any way. I'm just saying
actually there's times where I'm still
out there.
my hair out. Yeah, there absolutely are, but the solutions are in here.
Yeah, right in here. I mean, you can look to get the ideas because, you know, sometimes when you're stuck in that mode and, you know, you've got a lifestyle going on and you're in this routine of busyness that we seem to get ourselves bound up in, it's really hard to look outside the box, to look outside the frame, to see how you can do it differently. So what I was really suggesting was that there are so many things that you can access to look at to go, that way looks like that might work for me. I'd really like to give that a go. I mean, you've got to adapt it to suit yourself. You do that with every solution that you look for, but there's opportunity now beyond, you know, I think when I was looking, my options were private school, public school, Steiner school. And that was kind of as far as it went. And so now there are so many more options than that. And it doesn't mean that you have to rigidly follow a formula or a format that somebody else has put in place, but you can certainly cherry pick.
Absolutely.
And you know, connect with people who are living the experience to find out, okay, so what is it really like? You know, what are some of the difficulties I might encounter? So, I mean, you talk about this beautiful approach that you have, but it is quite different to societal conventions. So has that proven problematic for you?
It feels hard sometimes because, like, you forget that not everybody does things the same. You know, you're in your bubble, you're doing your stuff, and a lot of the people that we connect with are unschoolers as well. And that's cool because everyone gets everyone. It's kind of like when you meet your people, you don't have to give the backstory. You don't have to explain how things are, right? But then when you meet people who are not living in that way, and then you remember, oh, yeah, and my kids have got no idea mostly how different they are and how differently we live to most people. They don't have a concept really of that. And so it's only hard when we push up against that sometimes, or we feel like we're being pushed up against, or we're out and they see other parents interacting with their children in a really different way and they're like, why are they doing that? I remember being in a shoe shop in Australia, actually, not too long before we left. We were in a shoe shop and there was a grandma and a mum there, and they had an infant who was really on the cusp of walking. Like, I think they'd started taking some steps. But, you know, when they start taking some steps and they get tired really quickly and they drop to their knees and they start crawling. And this grandma kept on picking the child up and putting it back on its feet and was even saying things like, what are you crawling for? You can walk now. Trying to really shame this probably just 1-year-old. And Peggy, who was 4 at the time, said, why does she keep doing that, Mum? Why isn't she just letting it crawl? Why isn't she just letting it? I'm like, I don't know. So it's stuff like that they see. And then I remember, oh, yeah, that's right. We actually are quite different to other people. And so that's really the challenge, because how we live is quite at odds with the majority of other people. I mean, happily, we are really well connected, mostly with people all around the world, and we know how to connect with other people. But yeah, when we're out and about, just being out and about and doing our stuff, and the kids are talking about the stuff that they talk about, and, you know, they swear a lot, and, you know, other people probably think they're quite wild, and then I remember, oh yeah, we are different to other people, because we are just like being, without trying to mold them into anything. And other people sometimes find that challenging.
Yes. I actually see that sometimes in the relationship between my own father and, say, my brother's way of parenting his children. You know, my father has a very fixed point of view about how children are meant to be behaving and seen and talking to people. and you know they're in an environment where they're allowed to have an opinion. They're allowed to they're allowed to say, I don't like that.
Yeah, disagree with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So other
it's
people's
even a generational thing.
That. Yeah, it is it is. It is, but there's still a surprising number of parents who, I think without realizing it, are still perpetuating those things in very subtle ways. So sure, most families now, for example, don't smack their kids. I mean, it's mostly accepted that that's not cool. So that's like a big thing. Most people are kind of moving away from doing things like putting their kids in their room or like taking their toys away from them. But there are still, because they haven't then unpacked what it actually means to hold a child in their autonomy and done their own healing work, their own programming still cuts in. So they might not be smacking their child, but they might still be shaming them or manipulating them in very subtle ways that they don't even realize they're doing. And I still catch myself sometimes, like, or even, you know, like an I told you so type thing. Well, I told you needed different shoes on. I told you should have brought a jacket. I told you that the ice cream was going to fall out if you bit the end off. I told you were going to slip down the slide if you climbed up. You know, just little subtle things that is our programming, and we've removed those really obvious markers of authoritarian parenting for the most part. But without doing the work that underpins true partnership relationship with your kids, those other little elements of our programming that are so deep, they sneak in there, and so you have to hold yourself accountable. So do our kids. Yeah.
And I think you've really hit on something that's so powerful there, is that, you know, your kids are going to push your buttons. They are going to make you react rather than respond. And they're going to really bring all that programming right to the surface, whether you like it or not. So I'm intrigued with with what you're talking about, the healing that underpins. So it sounds to me more like it's deprogramming the parent than it is unschooling the child. Would that be right?
Absolutely, because, you know, most kids are born, you know, wild.
Why would you want to change them? They're gorgeous, aren't they?
Yeah. So, and we don't, that makes us feel uncomfortable because we weren't allowed to be, really. And so, you know, a lot of the parenting philosophies, even within kind of conscious parenting communities, are about getting our kids to be a certain way. And what I found when I was really honest with myself, because my kids just kept doing it, they didn't really care about the fact that my trauma was coming up. And I'm not just talking about my own childhood, I'm talking about generations and generations of programming that we live with, you know. They didn't care. They were just going to keep doing the thing, you know, saying no, swearing, painting the walls, whatever it was that was particular, you know, that would bring up these triggers. So there was a lot of opportunity for me to reflect on that. And I noticed that I would have these really big feelings about it. What I started to notice was that the control that parents typically exert over their children allows those feelings to go back down. So you experience the trigger, the feeling, the big visceral reaction to your child, you know, talking back, saying no, doing the thing that you just asked them to not do.
Kissing your favourite CD with lip gloss.
Yeah, and then you get that feeling. And if you punish your child or shame your child or stop your child from doing that, or all of the desperate attempts that we make to stop them doing the thing, then our feelings go back down as well. And you can very successfully, I'm sure, live your whole life pushing all of that down by stopping your kids from bringing up those triggers. Absolutely. And the only way you can do that is by controlling them.
Yeah. Oh, I love how you've explained that. That's perfect. So with the story that you're sharing in the F Motherhood book, what's the intention behind that? What is it that you're hoping other mums will come away with from that one?
Well, I think I mentioned to you earlier, I haven't actually written it yet.
I know, you're still channeling.
waiting for the birds to tell me my story. I'm going to one of the things that's been true for me, and we talk a lot about postnatal depression and postpartum depression, and words that we've got around how hard things are for mothers post-birth. Mm-hmm. And I never, went to a doctor and got a diagnosis or sought support for any of those things, but I've certainly felt many of those same feelings. And what I realized is, for me, and I suspect this is true of many mothers when we get really, really honest about it, mm-hmm. is that we're suffering from the isolation that we are forced into now. So you have a baby and it's exciting. People come and visit and bring you flowers and presents, particularly that first one. One baby, all the presents you get, first grandchild. And then everyone retreats. And you're like, I've got this baby. I've got no fucking idea what I'm doing. And you're on your own. Husband goes back to work. You may or may have friends who've got babies. Maybe you catch up once a week for a play date in the park. By and large, you're by yourself, figuring it all out, possibly not working. I wasn't. I stopped working. Tried to apply the same performance-based rationale to mothering that I had in my job. I'd always been like a high achiever in terms of I got results. I was really good at any job I did, anything. I did it really well. And I prided myself on that. And I just kind of transferred that to mothering. And that got me by for a while, 2 children, actually. It got me by for 2 children, really. And then the third one, there was a spanner in the works and all of it fell apart. And I realised that one of the reasons it was so hard was because we're not meant to live on our own in our house with 4 walls, a mother on her own with her children. That's not how we're meant to live. And we are reacting to that. We are grieving the loss of our mothers and our sisters and our aunties and our village women. And we are supposed to be doing it collectively. And we're not, and it's fucking hard, and it's wrong, and we know it's wrong, and we feel it in every bone in our body, and we get depressed, and we get sick, and we get lonely, and we get sad, and we don't understand why we feel like that, because everybody else is telling us this is how it's supposed to be, and you're supposed to have your perfectly presented children and your clean house and your homemade organic food and your labels and your brand name shoes and your nice stainless steel $90 bento boxes, and everything's amazing, and you've got your hair done and you go do your yoga session and you drop your kids at playgroup and everyone's happy. No, it's bullshit. It's bullshit, and we're sad, and we've got to start being honest about it.
Absolutely. And I think, that's a really common theme between what you're relating there and certainly my experience of motherhood was that complete disconnection and chopping up and divvying of the actual mother energy, the mother energy that flows through the earth, that flows through all people, that flows through all things. We have just become so disconnected from that, and the bits that we can access are just so chopped up and divided, and it's very sad. And
it is. And
totally
so then
agree.
so then we think
illness and pain and So yes, we definitely need to move out of this way of being. It's time for a paradigm shift. We need the societal restructure. Let's get back to our roots and really connect with the earth, connect with each other, set the children free. They're our hope. They really are.
They are, and there are so many of these children being born and have been for the last, I don't know, probably like 20, 25 years, I would hazard to guess, who are actually saying no. Yeah.
There's something different, do it differently. My kids are in the conventional schooling system. I've only got 2 more left. The other 2 have survived and moved on with their lives, which is wonderful. But, the 2 that are going through high school at the moment, they are so sad and disillusioned, and, their whole generation is really sad, really depressed, because why are you teaching me this stuff? I don't need to know this stuff. I need to know how to fix the problems that you're leaving for us. I don't want to know how to do maths and write a proper sentence. I want to know how are we going to fix the mess? How am I going to have, a halfway decent life on the planet that you're leaving for us. How do we fix this? And that's another fuck motherhood story in itself, is how do you manage this overall depression that the younger generations are living with, knowing that we're delivering this incredibly sick planet to them and really not listening to their plea of do something to help us, please. Do something to fix this. Stop living the way you're living because you're making it worse for us.
Well, I think we've got to listen to them. I mean, this is the interesting thing about teenagers, that we've decided collectively that teenagers don't know what they're talking about. They're rebellious. They do stupid things. They make mistakes. What would they know? They're defiant. Actually, they know a whole lot. They've got so much wisdom, and we need to trust them. And we need to they also need to say, no, we're speaking now, and we need to listen to them. And, you know, I really want people to know that there are so many teenagers in the world doing cool things, learning how to be entrepreneurs, learning how to solving their own problems, talking about this stuff. Like, they're talking about stuff that teenagers didn't really talk much about when I was growing up. Like, so I used to talk about that stuff, but I was a weird one. But now they're all talking about it. It's not just one person. They're all talking about it. So I think there's so much hope. And absolutely, I'm really excited for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't need to ask for our permission. They don't need to ask for permission.
No, that's right. I'm actually quite in awe of, you know, the ones that I've encountered that are, they're just thinking beyond the square so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So, Sarah, if people want to connect with you, is Facebook the place to find you?
Yeah, it is. That's the easiest place to connect with me. People can drop me a message, and I post lots of things about what our life looks like and how my kids learn outside of school and what that looks like, because it does look quite different. And I just enjoy to give people confidence that children not only can learn without school, but do and thrive. And so, people can follow me on Facebook and connect with me that way. Drop me messages and ask me questions. And I'm always trying to recruit more people into the world of unschooling.
Well, it sounds like a really exciting place to be. So
it is.
Yeah.
I every day
encourage it to look seriously at it. Hey, here's a comment from Bridget.
Hi, Bridget.
Hello. Thank you for finding us. Yep. Well, the replay will be available very soon, I'm sure. So is there any last words of wisdom you'd like to leave?
Well, you know, again, I would just say to people, and this is definitely going to be a theme in my chapter when I finish writing it, that
tune in at just the right time.
Yeah. She's probably like, when's Sarah going to give me a chapter? It's coming. That we don't have to look to wisdom outside of ourselves. We don't. We just need to, sometimes we need to access this place of quiet. However it is for you that you do that, but we've got it all in here. and that's it. It's as simple as that. Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah, look, I totally agree. And I think the other thing that I would add to that is we actually have to stop long enough. I think a lot of us know innately that that's what we need to do, but we keep ourselves so busy so that we don't actually have to listen, because the change that's being asked for can be quite radical.
And it's scary. And we want to keep busy, keep on the, you know, doing all the, I mean, I was the same, baking, cooking, fixing, mending, so everything, so that I didn't have to actually think about what was going on in here. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So
thanks, Linda.
We'll call it an end there. Thank you so much, Sarah. I've loved that. We could have sat and chatted for another hour or two, I'm sure, about all of the juicy topics we've touched on tonight. So thank you so much. I'm going to let you go back to your birthday day.
Thank you.
With Miles, is it?
Yeah, it's Miles.
And, you know, just enjoy all that lovely birthday boy energy.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Okay, bye for now.